Hi everyone, this is Doug Brennicky. In today's installment, let's talk a little bit about cash to close. Now this is a process by which the underwriter wants to know that the borrower has enough cash to close the transaction. Now let's say, for example, we're dealing with a purchase transaction, because this is usually where it comes into play the most. We have to be able to verify their down payment, their closing cost money, and their ability to have some reserves after closing. This can come from any number of sources. It may come from checking or savings or money market accounts, or it could come from a brokerage account where maybe they have a money market, or they may have stock and bond positions or mutual fund positions at that brokerage account that need to be liquidated and sold off to generate the cash. Some people also get gifts from family members. The important thing through all of this is that we have to show the source of all of that cash and be able to track it with a very strict paper trail. So let's use a couple examples. Let's say, for example, somebody has a savings account that has $50,000 in it. And let's say that their down payment, closing costs, and cash reserves for the transaction that they're interested in comes to $40,000. It's going to be very simple for us to show that they have the money available to close the transaction with just the verification of that one savings account. But most borrowers have multiple accounts and their money spread out in various ways, or maybe accessing the gift or the brokerage accounts like we talked about. So let's say, for example, they still have that same savings account of $50,000, but it costs them $100,000 for their down payment, closing costs, and cash reserves. So obviously the verification of that one savings account is not going to be sufficient in and of itself to show the source. If they have a checking account that has $20,000 and they're getting a gift of, let's say, another $20,000, and then they're selling a stock or a mutual fund position for another $10,000, now we've been able to determine the sources for the $100,000. We have to paper trail that very tightly. So as an example, if the checking account has $20,000 in it, we'll verify that typically with statements to show that it's been there for a while and it wasn't just recently added or borrowed from some other source. On the gift situation, we're going to need to document the gift, presumably from a family member, show that they have the money available to provide the gift, show that they write a check from the account that they represented to the borrower, that check's deposited into the savings or checking account, and that the check is cleared so that we can track that money all the way through. On the brokerage account, we may need to get a statement showing that they sold a certain position in stocks or mutual funds for the additional $10,000, and that money got transferred into their checking and savings as they compile all of this money to be able to send a wire to escrow to close the transaction. All of this paper trailing can get quite extensive and at times stressful. It's important to deal with all of the sources of money very early on in the process and be very clear about what the documentation needs to be. Because there's nothing worse than coming up close to the closing. The buyer has all of their records in boxes, getting ready for their move, and then we need to get more information from them that's not readily available. So it's important to sit down with your loan officer and make sure that it's clear where all the money's coming from and to be clear on what it takes to prove your case for the down payment, closing costs, and cash reserves. So I hope that's helpful and gives you more insights into what to expect in the mortgage process, and we'll move on to another lesson in just a little bit. Thank you.